We begin our conversation this morning in Ghana, where the National Teaching Council has described the high failure rate of teachers who wrote the 2023 Teacher Licensure Examination as a national security threat and a major cause for concern for the country. According to the Public Relations Officer of the body, Dennis Osei-Owusu, out of the 7,728 prospective teachers who sat for the licensure examination in May this year, only 1,277 passed, while 6,481 teachers failed.
Well, the figure represents 16.5% of the candidates who sat again for the examination, introduced to licensed teaching practitioners. The Registrar of the Ghana Teacher Licensure Examination, GTLE, Dr. Christian Adaipoku, said all the candidates had sat for the exam at least twice, with some sitting as many as 9 times. Now, political editor Wilberforce Asari joins us from Ghana. Shocking story there. I'm sure you would agree, Mr. Asari. Over 6,000 teachers. Tell us what this says about the teachers in Ghana and what exactly is the licensure exam? How difficult is it?
Well, so yes, indeed, it's very shocking for everybody who is in Ghana. That's because these are already people who are teaching. They are not about to teach. They are teaching, and there is an examination that they have to write in order to get their qualification. And these persons who wrote the exams are people who have written the exams in the past. So they are not new to the exams. They've written it several times and have not been able to pass. And we're taking it again in order to get the certification. Essentially, one of the things that happens here in Ghana is that, especially with regard to private schools, they will go on the market, and anybody who is interested in teaching and interacting with children will get recruited to teach. And whilst they are doing the teaching, they now go through the process in order to be licensed. And that is the phenomenon that we have seen in our country. And so what you are seeing in this results is a reflection of that cycle where people go into the educational sector, they go to teach, and over a period of time, they now go and get their licenses. There is the opposite, which has to do with people who are going through training to become teachers, and they also go through this examination. Largely, the pass list is made up of those who are having or acquiring some form of education before they go and teach. And they are those that are seen to have passed. Those who are recruited and go into the system and then now try to backtrack to get licenses are those who are said to have failed, who constitutes the over 83% who are said to have failed. So that's the dynamics. You asked the question about what this exam is about. Perhaps my explanation has actually answered that question. It is a licensing examination that anybody who wants to be a recognized certified teacher goes through in order to become recognized. So it's just like the law entrance exams that we write here in Ghana. If you go through any law school, you can go through the law schools that are all over the country, but you have to go through the General Legal Counsel examination to become certified to become a lawyer. So that's briefly the explanation that I can give. It is very alarming.
All right. There have been several reactions to this. I'll come to talk about the controversy much later, but let's talk about what this says about the education system. Now we have that. From what I've seen, you have to have had a bachelor's degree to be able to, a number of them have bachelor's degree. A number of these people who are writing, these teachers who are writing these exams, give us a picture of what the current situation of Ghana's education sector is like. And then I'd like us to, when you answer that, I'll come back to talk about some of the controversies that I've seen as regards the story.
Well, yeah, so it is even more alarming and more difficult if you hear that the requirement is a law degree, a degree, as it were, a bachelor's degree from any of our universities. That makes it even more alarming because to get a bachelor's degree, you'd have gone through junior high school for 3 years, senior high school for another 3 years, and then gone through the university for 4 years. So you do a combination of that. You are talking about a period of somewhat 10 years of adult education before you get a degree. And so if these persons have gone through this at least 10 years of education, and I've taken away the primary school, which is about 6 years away. So if you add that, you are talking about a combination of 16 years. And you have to write an entry exam such as this, and you are unable to go through, then it brings a very serious question about what kind of educational process people went through to be able to get to that level where they have a degree and are trying to acquire a license to certify them to teach. The reason why some experts have described it as a national security threat is because it raises a lot of questions, and it has brought to bear the need to assess the entire structure when it comes to getting people qualified to become teachers of the children in our country. And so indeed, it is a national security concern. It's raised issues, and I believe the authorities are taking immediate steps to deal with these matters.
All right, now that you've highlighted this, I'd like us to address some of the controversies I've seen. There are some people, some camps believe that this is a deliberate attempt by the government to fill a large chunk of them because it puts a huge pressure on the fiscal expenditure by the government. Some other people have questioned the quality of the exam, saying that they're not quite fitting in determining the capabilities of the teachers that are being employed. So I'd like you to maybe, speak to these controversies and share your thoughts on them as well.
So yes, indeed, the controversies are not something that you can run away from. We all know that the government is constrained when it comes to the country's finances and all that. And every attempt to control expenditure is something that this current government will try and do. However, if this was the first time these people were writing the exams, then you would say that the circumstances of today is what is dictating the outcome of the elections. But the verdict is out there. Some people have written exams as much as 9 times. That is 9 years, because the exams takes place every year. So really, it is not possible for anybody to hang this on the current economic circumstances. Indeed, like I've said, most of these people who wrote these exams are coming from private schools. They don't necessarily have to, they are not paid by central government. They are not paid from the consolidated fund of the country. They are paid by private schools, which are owned by private individuals. A very few number are teachers who belong to the public sector who have to be paid by the government and through the consolidated fund. So that argument of finances, when it comes to the challenges that government has, doesn't really hold because of where a majority of the people are coming from. So I believe that explains it. What tells me on the other side is that there is a need for a holistic view or a holistic review of the entire process. And when I say the entire process, I'm talking about the training that these persons who want to be teachers go through prior to going to the classroom, and then the preparations that are done ahead of the writing of the licensure exams before the exams is written. So it's a comprehensive review. When I do a comparison with the legal profession, there is an entry exams that people write, but the entry exams is usually written in September. So this year is going to be written on the 8th of September. So between now and September, students who want to enter into the law school are preparing themselves. Some are attending classes that are organized by lawyers and professionals. Some are even organized by sitting judges who are justices of the High Court and Court of Appeal and all that. So there's a preparation process. And when they write that exams, at least the outcome reflects that people have gone through some process to be able to pass that exams to enter into the law school and to become lawyers. So really, I think that there is a need for a holistic view. Simplifying it and saying that it's because of government financial constraints does not deal with the matter. And that's because majority of the people out of the 7,728 who failed are coming from private schools. They are not paid by government.
All right. I also want to ask what happens next. These 6,000. Do they retake the exam? Are they kicked out of the Ghana's education system completely? What's the plan?
Well, so like I've told you, these are persons who are already teaching, and so as we speak today, some of them are back to the classroom and they are teaching. They just need to be licensed and recognized by the state as in giving them licenses to be able to practice the profession. Until then, they are still teaching in the private schools. Now, the authorities at the National Teachers Council or the National Teaching Council has told us that they have put in an alternative measure for these candidates who failed, and that is that they are reviewing the licensure exams and are trying to introduce some kind of support that they can give to the teachers, prepare them so that they can go through the process. I think that that's the way forward. Reviewing the existing situation and finding ways by which they can support these persons to be able to write the exams. Because I haven't seen the examination questions and I haven't seen the nature of the exams, I'm unable to really speak to it as a journalist. One of the things that I'm trying to follow up is to try and obtain the question paper that the teachers wrote. And when I see the question paper, the way the questions were asked, and then also what was expected of them in terms of the rules and regulations governing the exams, I'll be able to make a better informed discussion about the particular exam and then the nature of the exam. But until then, we will leave it at the fact that the authorities at the National Teaching Council have decided that they are going to review the process, give these teachers, this huge number of over 7,000 teachers, some form of preparation so that when next they take the exams, at least the pass mark or the pass statistics will be above the 16% that we are seeing in this last exams that has been written.
All right, Mr. Sare, obviously a lot of work needs to be done. And of course, like you've said, it's interesting that it's seen as a national security challenge, challenge with the teachers. In some other countries, even, banditry and attacks is not seen as a national security challenge. But thanks for your time this morning. We enjoy speaking with you always. We, of course, will be bringing you again sometime soon.
Thank you very much indeed for having me.